Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Or if you're new here, I'm so glad you stopped by. Today we're diving into one of the coolest and most underrated ways to transform your garden, rock landscaping. Yep, we're talking all about how you can turn plain old dirt patches or boring backyards into stunning, peaceful, and super low maintenance spaces using nothing but rocks. Now, I know what you're thinking. Rocks? Really? But trust me, once you see the ideas we've got lined up for you, you'll never look at rocks the same way again. They're not just something you trip over in your yard. With the right layout and a little bit of creativity, rocks can become the highlight of your garden, giving it that natural, timeless vibe that works in just about any climate or space. In this video, we're going to walk through everything you need to know to get started. We'll cover the reasons why rocks are such a smart choice for landscaping, the different types of rocks you can use, and then we'll get into some really creative ideas to inspire your own project. Oh, and don't worry, I'll also give you step-by-step tips if you're thinking of doing it yourself. And of course, we'll go over a few common mistakes so you can avoid learning the hard way. Whether you've got a big backyard, a tiny garden, or even just a little space on the side of your house, you'll find something in here that can work for you. No fancy tools or crazy skills required. Just a love for nature, a bit of imagination, and maybe a strong back for lifting some stones. All right. Ready to turn that plain garden into something epic? Let's jump right in and start with the biggest question of all, why rocks? Alright, so let's start with the basics. Why should you even consider using rocks in your garden in the first place? Well, for starters, rocks are just plain awesome when it comes to landscaping. They're like the unsung heroes of garden design. They don't need to be watered, they don't wilt, they don't need trimming or fertilizing, and they're not going to suddenly die on you in the middle of summer. They just sit there looking good all year round. Talk about low maintenance. And that's one of the biggest reasons people love using rocks in their garden. They make your life so much easier. If you're tired of mowing, weeding, or constantly trying to keep your grass alive during a heat wave, switching parts of your yard to rock landscaping can save you a ton of time and effort. But it's not just about convenience. Rocks also look amazing. They give your garden this natural, grounded feel, like something you'd see in a peaceful mountain retreat or a cozy desert hideaway. You can use them to build structure, create contrast, or just add a touch of texture that makes everything else in your garden pop. Whether you go for sleek, modern vibes, or something more wild and organic, rocks can fit just about any style. Another huge plus? Rocks are eco-friendly. If you live in a dry area, or you're just trying to cut back on water use, rock landscaping is perfect. It's a key part of something called xeriscaping. That's just a fancy word for landscaping that doesn't need much water. So instead of pouring gallons into thirsty grass or delicate plants, you can build a space that thrives in your natural climate, saves water, and still looks incredible. And let's not forget durability. Plants come and go, but rocks? Rocks last forever. Once you place them, you're pretty much set. They won't blow away in the wind, get crushed underfoot, or disappear after a storm. In fact, the older they get, the better they tend to look, blending into the landscape naturally over time. Now here's something a lot of people don't realize. Rocks can actually help with your garden's health too. Yep, depending on how you use them, they can improve drainage, prevent erosion, and even create little microclimates that help certain plants thrive. For example, placing flat stones around a plant can keep moisture in the soil and protect roots from the sun. Or using rocks on a slope can stop your soil from washing away every time it rains. And if you got pets or kids running around, rock landscaping can be super practical too. You don't have to worry about muddy footprints or trampled flower beds. Rocks can handle all the action without turning into a mess. Plus, if you ever decide to change things up, rocks are easy to move around. Want to switch out a border or create a new path? No problem. Unlike concrete or turf, you're not locked into one look forever. So whether you're going for a stylish front yard makeover, building a cozy backyard retreat, or just trying to fix that weird, dead corner of your garden where nothing ever seems to grow, rocks are a solid choice. Pun absolutely intended. All right, now that we're all on board with how great rocks can be, let's get into the fun part. What types of rocks should you actually use? There are so many to choose from, and each one brings a different vibe to your space. So in the next chapter, we'll break down the most popular types of landscaping rocks and how to use them to make your garden look absolutely amazing. Alright, now that you know why rocks are such a great option for your garden, let's talk about the different types of rocks you can actually use. Because not all rocks are created equal, and choosing the right kind can make a big difference in the way your garden looks and functions. Let's start with river rocks. These are the smooth, rounded stones you often see in natural-looking gardens. They come in a variety of colors: browns, grays, whites, even a few with red or blue tones mixed in. River rocks are perfect for creating borders around plants, lining pathways, or filling in dry riverbeds. Their smooth texture makes them super pleasing to the eye, and they look especially nice when paired with water features like ponds or fountains. Next up, we've got gravel. Now, gravel is like the Swiss Army knife of landscaping rocks. It's cheap, easy to spread, and comes in tons of colors and sizes. You can use it to cover large areas, fill in between pavers, or create natural-looking pathways. Plus, gravel is excellent for drainage. If you got a part of your yard that tends to get soggy after it rains, laying down some gravel can help keep things dry and tidy. Then there's flagstone. This one's a bit more structured and is perfect if you're looking to add a patio, stepping stones, or a formal walkway. Flagstones are flat, wide, and often come in earthy tones like tan, slate gray, or reddish brown. They can be laid out tightly for a clean, polished look, or spaced out with gravel or ground cover in between for something more rustic. Now let's talk about boulders. Yep, big, bold, beautiful boulders. These are the statement pieces of rock landscaping. You don't need a lot of them to make an impact. Just one or two well-placed boulders can act as a natural focal point in your garden. Use them to anchor a corner, create levels in your landscape, or just add a dramatic touch that draws the eye. Another cool option is lava rock. It's lightweight, super porous, and usually comes in bold red or black colors. Lava rock is great for adding contrast to green plants and mulch, and it has this really unique, rugged texture that makes everything around it pop. Plus, it's excellent at retaining heat, which can actually benefit certain types of plants. We've also got crushed stone, which is kind of like gravel's rougher cousin. It has sharper edges and a chunkier look, making it perfect for driveways or high-traffic paths. Crushed stone is also great for modern or industrial-style landscapes, where clean lines and texture really matter. If you're looking for something decorative, you can go with marble chips or pea gravel. Marble chips are bright white and super elegant, though they can get hot in direct sun. Pea gravel is small, round, and soft underfoot, making it ideal for sitting areas or pathways you walk on barefoot. And then there's decomposed granite, a finer, sandy-looking rock that's great for walkways, patios, and even as a base for other stones. It compacts really well and gives your space a smooth, natural feel without looking too done. Now, one thing to keep in mind when picking your rocks is to think about color and texture. Try to choose rocks that complement your home's exterior or the plants in your garden. If your house has warm tones, go for reds, browns, or golds. If it's cooler in tone, grays and blues can really bring everything together. Mixing textures, like pairing smooth river rocks with rougher boulders, can also add depth and visual interest. Also, think about the scale of your space. Large rocks in a small garden can feel overwhelming, while tiny pebbles in a wide, open yard might get lost. It's all about balance and making sure everything feels cohesive. So to recap, river rocks for soft, flowing borders, gravel and crushed stone for paths and coverage, flagstone for structure, boulders for drama, lava rock and marble chips for bold accents, and decomposed granite for a clean, modern finish. Pick your players, mix and match as needed, and you've already got the ingredients for a stunning outdoor space. Okay, now that you've got a sense of what's out there, let's really get into the fun stuff. In the next chapter, we're diving into actual design ideas. Real, creative ways you can use these rocks to build something beautiful in your own backyard. Get ready to be inspired. All right, now it's time for the really fun part, putting all these rocks to work in your garden. You've seen the types, you know the benefits, but how do you actually use them to create something beautiful and functional? Don't worry, I've got you covered with a bunch of creative ideas that you can use no matter the size of your space or your experience level. Let's kick things off with one of the most classic options, the rock garden. A rock garden is all about combining stones with drought-tolerant plants like succulents, cacti, or alpine flowers. It's a great way to bring texture and variety into your yard, and it works especially well in dry or sunny areas. The key here is contrast. You mix different shapes, sizes, and colors of rocks, then sprinkle in some hardy plants to soften the edges and bring in life. It's calm, it's natural, and it pretty much takes care of itself. Now, if you want something that really stands out visually, you can build a dry riverbed. This is a design that mimics the look of a stream or creek using smooth river rocks and gravel. You don't need any actual water, just a winding path of stones that flows through your yard like a real water feature. It adds movement and shape to a flat garden and helps with drainage too. You can even plant taller grasses or shrubs along the edges to make it look even more realistic. Another great idea: stone pathways. You can create winding garden paths using flagstone, stepping stones, or pea gravel. These paths not only look amazing, but they also give your garden a sense of direction and purpose. Want to make it even more charming? Add some solar lights or plant low-ground covers like thyme or moss between the stones. It'll feel like something out of a fairy tale. If you're dealing with flower beds or lawn edges, try using rock borders or edging. These are super simple to set up. You just line the edge of your bed with medium-sized rocks or boulders. This gives your garden a clean, defined look, and it helps keep mulch, soil, and plants right where they belong. You can go uniform and tidy, or mix sizes and colors for something more organic. And speaking of tidy, let's talk rock mulch. Instead of using wood chips that break down and blow away, try using crushed stone or gravel around your plants. Not only does it suppress weeds and keep moisture in the soil, but it also looks crisp and clean. Plus, it won't attract pests like regular mulch sometimes does. Feeling a little more adventurous? Add a water feature with rocks. You don't need a big budget or tons of space to make it work. A small fountain surrounded by river rocks or a mini pond with stacked stone edges can be a gorgeous focal point in your yard. The sound of trickling water brings peace, and the rocks give it a natural frame. If your yard has a slope or hill, rocks are your best friend. You can create terrace gardens or retaining walls using large stones or boulders. This not only helps manage erosion, but also adds layers and dimension to your landscape. Plant some shrubs or flowers between the levels, and suddenly your tricky hill becomes a beautiful feature. Now here's one of my personal favorites, a Zen rock garden. This is all about simplicity, space, and serenity. Think gravel that you can rake into patterns, a few large rocks as focal points, and maybe a small bench or lantern. It's perfect for a corner of your yard where you just want to sit and relax. And don't forget about the vertical elements. If you want to make a statement, build a small rock pillar, a cairn, or even a natural-looking sculpture using stacked stones. These give your garden a unique character and draw the eye upward, adding height and drama. Oh, and if you've got kids, you can even turn rocks into a play element. Try building a mini rock climbing area with sturdy boulders, or create a nature trail with stepping stones leading through the yard. It's a fun way to make your garden interactive and family-friendly. The best part about all these ideas, you can mix and match. Maybe you have a dry riverbed flowing into a rock garden with a stone path winding through both, or a flagstone patio surrounded by lava rock and cactus beds. The possibilities are endless, and you can totally customize everything to fit your space, your climate, and your personal style. And here's the thing, rock landscaping doesn't have to happen all at once. Start small. Maybe just add a stone path or edge one flower bed. Once you get the feel for it, you can expand, add more features, or even rearrange things. Rocks are flexible, they're forgiving, and they'll be there looking great no matter how fast or slow you build your dream garden. All right, feeling inspired yet? Good, because in the next chapter, I'm going to walk you through how to actually get started with your own rock landscaping project. Step by step, from planning to placement, so you can take those ideas and turn them into reality. Let's keep it going. Okay, now that your brain is buzzing with ideas and possibilities, let's get into the nitty-gritty. How do you actually start your own rock landscaping project? Don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds. You don't need to be a professional landscaper or own a truck full of tools. Just follow these steps, take your time, and before you know it, you'll be building something amazing in your own backyard. Step 1, planning. This part is super important. Before you even pick up a shovel, take a walk around your garden and think about what you want to do. Visualize it. Where do you want to add rocks? Is it going to be a full makeover or just a small corner? Are you going for a pathway, a dry riverbed, a rock garden, or a mix of things? Grab a notebook or even a piece of scrap paper and sketch out your idea. It doesn't have to be fancy, just a rough outline of where things will go. If you're not sure where to start, try focusing on one feature. Maybe a path that leads from your porch to the backyard, or a small garden bed near your fence that needs a little love. Once you have a plan in mind, it's time for step 2, prepping the area. This is where you get your hands dirty. First, clear out any grass, weeds, or debris in the area you'll be working on. Then, level the ground as much as possible. You don't need it to be perfect, but the smoother it is, the easier things will go. After that, lay down a weed barrier. You can use landscaping fabric or even old cardboard. This helps keep weeds from popping up between your rocks later on. Trust me, you'll thank yourself for doing this step. Then, if you're creating a path or filling a large space, add a layer of sand or gravel base to help with drainage and keep your rocks in place. Now, comes step 3, placing your larger rocks first. This is especially important if you're using boulders, flagstones, or any big feature pieces. Place them down before adding smaller rocks so you can build around them. It's kind of like setting the anchor points of your design. Once the big pieces are in, everything else will fall into place more easily. Step 4, fill in with smaller rocks. Depending on your design, this might be river rocks, gravel, or crushed stone. Pour them in slowly and spread them out with a rake or your hands. You can also mix sizes and textures to create more visual interest. Don't be afraid to play around a bit until things feel balanced. If you're creating a path, step on the stones or use a tamper to press them down and make sure they're stable. You don't want wobbly stepping stones or loose gravel that shifts underfoot. Now, this part is optional, but highly recommended. Add some plants. Even in rock-heavy designs, a bit of green goes a long way. Look for low-maintenance, drought-tolerant plants like sedum, ornamental grasses, succulents, or native shrubs. Tuck them between rocks or let them spill over the edges. It softens the space and makes it feel more alive. Step 5, step back and adjust. Seriously, take a break, grab a drink, and look at your work from a few different angles. Move a rock here, shift some gravel there. It's like arranging furniture. It takes a bit of tweaking to get it just right. And here's a pro tip: don't rush. Rock landscaping isn't something you need to finish in a day. You can do it little by little, over a weekend, or even over a few weeks. The beauty of rocks is that they don't die or go bad. They'll wait for you. Also, don't forget lighting. Solar-powered lights tucked among rocks or lining your paths can make your space magical at night. It's a small touch that makes a big difference. One more thing, clean up. Rinse off your rocks with a hose to get rid of any dust or dirt from the installation process. If you use a lot of gravel, it might take a few waterings to really settle, but once it does, it'll look fantastic. So to recap, plan your design, prep the area, place your big rocks, fill in with the smaller ones, add plants if you like, and then step back and admire your work. That's it. That's how you go from plain patch of dirt to a beautiful, relaxing, rock-filled paradise. It's surprisingly satisfying. There's just something about arranging natural materials that feels peaceful and creative. Plus, every time you look out your window and see your creation, you'll get that proud, I did that feeling. All right, so you've got the tools, the plan, and the steps to make it happen. But before you go all in, let's talk about a few things you'll definitely want to avoid. Because as easy as rock landscaping can be, there are a few common mistakes that can mess things up if you're not careful. Let's head into chapter 6, and I'll walk you through what not to do. All right, you've come a long way. You know why rocks are awesome, what kinds to use, how to design with them, and how to put everything together. But before you grab that last shovel of gravel, let's go over a few common mistakes that a lot of people make when they're new to rock landscaping. Trust me, avoiding these from the start will save you time, money, and a whole lot of frustration later on. First up, ignoring drainage. This is probably the #1 mistake people make. Just because you're using rocks doesn't mean you can forget about water flow. If you lay rocks directly on top of poorly draining soil, especially in areas that get a lot of rain, you might end up with puddles, flooding, or erosion. Always plan for water movement. That means grading the ground slightly so water flows away from your house, using a gravel base, and placing rocks in a way that lets water pass through, not trap it. Mistake number 2, using the wrong type of rock for the job. For example, don't use sharp crushed stone in areas where people will be walking barefoot. It might look nice, but your feet won't thank you. Or putting large boulders in a tiny space can feel overwhelming and cluttered. Make sure the size, texture, and shape of the rock match the function and scale of your garden. Number 3, not preparing the ground properly. This one's huge. If you skip the weed barrier or forget to level the area, things can get messy real fast. Weeds will pop up, rocks will shift out of place, and the whole thing will start to look sloppy after a few weeks. Take the time to clear, level, and layer the ground before you start adding rocks. It's a little more work up front, but it makes a world of difference. Next up, overcrowding your space with rocks. It's easy to get carried away once you start placing stones. But remember, rocks are a design element, not the entire design. You need open space too. You need balance. Leave some breathing room. Let the plants, mulch, and even negative space do their part. Otherwise, you'll end up with something that feels more like a gravel pit than a garden. Another mistake, not thinking about the long term. Rocks are durable, but they're not completely set it and forget it. Over time, debris, dirt, and leaves will collect between the rocks. If you don't plan for some basic maintenance, like occasional raking or blowing off the surface, it can start to look messy. So keep your layout accessible. Make sure you can reach every area to clean it if you need to. And finally, not having a vision. You don't need a fancy landscape design degree, but if you just start dumping rocks without a plan, you might end up with something that feels random and disconnected. Always think in terms of flow and cohesion. Even if you're working on one small area at a time, try to keep a consistent style or theme so it all feels like part of one connected space. So yeah, watch out for those things: drainage issues, wrong rock choices, poor prep, overcrowding, and skipping the big picture. Avoid those, and you're already ahead of the game. All right, let's wrap things up with some final inspiration and a quick recap of everything we've covered. Because by now, you've got everything you need to go out and build something awesome. Okay, so here we are, the final stretch. By now, you've got the full picture. You understand the power of rock landscaping. You know what types of rocks to use. You've seen some creative ideas to spark your imagination, and you've got the step-by-step guide to bring it all to life. You even know what pitfalls to avoid, so you don't end up redoing everything a month later. But before we wrap up, let's take a moment to soak in a little inspiration. Picture it, your garden transformed. A smooth gravel path winding through tall, ornamental grasses. A dry riverbed catching the light as it curves around your flower beds. Maybe a few large boulders nestled among succulents. You walk barefoot across flat flagstones. Solar lights flicker on at dusk. There's the sound of a small fountain bubbling in the corner. You made this with your own hands, out of simple rocks. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's yours. It's low maintenance, water efficient, peaceful, and honestly, just beautiful to look at. That's the magic of rock landscaping. It brings structure, contrast, and calm to any space, whether you've got acres of yard or just a tiny patch beside your porch. So let's do a quick recap. First, we talked about why rocks are such a smart choice. Low maintenance, eco-friendly, super durable, and gorgeous year-round. Then, we explored different types of rocks, like river rocks, gravel, flagstones, lava rocks, boulders, and crushed stone, each with their own unique vibe and use. After that, I gave you a bunch of creative ideas to spark your design. Rock gardens, dry riverbeds, stone pathways, water features, edging, terracing, and even Zen gardens. We moved on to the DIY steps: planning, prepping the area, placing rocks, filling in, adding plants, and making final tweaks. Then we covered the common mistakes to avoid, like ignoring drainage, skipping the ground prep, and overcrowding your space. And now here we are, with everything you need to bring your rock landscaping vision to life. So if you've been waiting for a sign to start, this is it. Go grab some gloves, sketch your plan, and just begin. One rock at a time. You'll be surprised how quickly a few simple changes can turn your outdoor space into something really special. And hey, if you do create something cool, share it. Whether it's online or just showing it off to friends, it's always satisfying to say, yeah, I built that. All right, that's a wrap on today's video. In the final chapter coming up, I've got a few quick notes for you, some final encouragement, and a little heads up on what's coming next. Stick around. And that brings us to the end of our rock landscaping journey. If you made it this far, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you're feeling inspired, confident, and ready to take on your own garden transformation. Whether you're starting with just a handful of river rocks or going all in with a full dry riverbed and boulder setup, remember, every garden starts with one small change. Just one step. If you enjoyed this video, it would mean a lot if you gave a thumbs up. It really helps the channel and tells me that you want more content like this. Got questions? Ideas? Or maybe you've already done a rock landscaping project and want to share? Drop a comment down below. I read every single one, and I love hearing from you. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the little bell so you don't miss out on future videos. We've got tons more garden design tips, DIY landscaping guides, and backyard transformation ideas coming your way. Also, if you're looking for even more inspiration, I've linked some related videos in the description. Check those out next, especially if you want to dive into topics like choosing the best drought-tolerant plants or designing a Zen garden space. All right, that's it from me today. Get out there, start building, and don't be afraid to get creative. You've got this. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.